I used to think like, oh God, I'm marrying a diva. But legit, like when you have long legs, it is a problem. Oh, is that a metaphor moment?
Jamie's metaphor moment. You cannot give a look in Spanish.
You are so right. I didn't even think of that.
Like, why is it relevant that she is Spanish?
Yeah, it's a system that works for my neurospicy brain.
It's okay.
Thank you. I feel cool down right now.
You're through to 1-800-DRAMA,
The show where you share your biggest dilemmas.
and we help you navigate them.
I'm Shaaba.
And I'm Jamie.
Come join us as we help people figure out if they are the drama.
Because sometimes you just need an outside perspective.
And we can all expand our own mindsets along the way.
Wait, am I the drama?
Red flag, green flag, Shaaba.
Hit me.
People who play their music out loud in public.
Interesting.
It's not the 90s anymore, mate. You don't need a boombox on your shoulder.
Ask Jamie with his red flag straight away,
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know, I think of the song My Heart's a Stereo, and the whole thing of that was like beatboxing. Does that mean you have a problem with like buskers?
No, there's a difference between music playing in a public place out loud
And you playing
and somebody
tinny
like
music on terrible speakers.
I don't want to hear Jonathan, your iPhone 10, playing Drake on the train.
Fair. I don't know, I guess I'm really nosy, and I don't mind it. I don't red flag it, but I also don't green flag it. I'm going to use a bloody amber flag. I understand it can sometimes be like bonehead and obnoxious to be doing that out loud. I like the ambience sometimes. If it's not horribly tinny or disgusting stuff, I'm like, would I have expected you to have played that? Yes. And if I'm vibing to the song, I'm like,
I think we're red flagging the same thing. I just think as a concept, it's a bit bizarre now that we have very nice headphones that exist and are very small.
Sure.
You know?
Yes.
And like portable music players that you can plug those headphones into. Or, well, Bluetooth. I'm sounding very old right now. But you know what I mean?
Those
it's
are the
just
days, right,
unnecessary.
when we used to go to the parks with our tiny little... I mean, I never had a pill. I couldn't afford one.
Oh,
but
yeah, the little
I had this little
speakers.
like jam box, it was called. It was like this purple thing.
I don't think I mind that. Like,
People at
it's very
picnics, just having a little
specifically
time.
people who are just walking around in public playing things out loud on their phone.
Fair.
But if you are stationary, having a picnic with your friends, having a meet-up, or something's happening and there's some music playing, that is a vibe.
If you got good music taste.
Yeah, and if you've got good music, or at least nice speakers, because music is so subjective, but the speakers are not. They can be objectively terrible. It's the same, though, as people who are like, I'm just going to FaceTime Margaret, and it's really loud. Like, do it as a phone
FaceTimes in
call.
public piss me the frick off. I red flag that.
Yeah.
I red flag that.
Okay.
And you know what I red
Or you're
flag
getting a
even more?
2-for-1 red flag, green flag.
You listen to me. Friends, family, loved ones, I see you. The people who answer FaceTimes in public. Don't be doing that. If I'm calling you on FaceTime, you need to check that I'm okay with me being seen, not just by you in your house, but by all these other people. Because there are some people that only go to FaceTime because that's the way that we communicate the most.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting them to be at home. And if you are not at home, you don't pick up on your phone. Don't pick up at Wix. That's the last time it happened to me. I was in a towel because I was talking to this person I'm very comfortable with, and they bloody opened in a hardware store, and I could see people behind, and they're loud and they're holding the phone up there, and I'm like, God, this is so embarrassing. And like that whole time I was trying to be like, I will call you another time. I'll call you another time. I was trying to be polite. And they're like, yeah, but also I'm like, no.
Here, I don't want to take a FaceTime in public, and I don't want to be on a FaceTime with somebody who's in public, because I don't want other people hearing.
Exactly. You check that first. You make sure someone's happy first. That I red
Yeah.
flag. Music, I could take it or leave it.
Speaking of being a music lover, how would you feel if people played your music out loud, Shaaba?
Do it!
That I would green flag.
I wonder if I'm also just a little bit biased because I do love music, and right now I'm in like a Cloud 9 music bubble. Yeah, I do have some music updates. My song Ouija is out. If you haven't already had a listen, please do stream it everywhere. Even if you had a listen again, because I love it. You can listen to Ouija and then you won't be dead to me. Without further ado, babe, are you ready to go fishing for
Drama!
So let's go!
Am I the drama, Shaaba, for
Always.
standing in the aisle and, quote, boxing out a woman behind me who wanted to exit the plane first?
What does that mean? Did you box a woman?
Boxing, like, there's a term in, like, a police
Like this?
sting
Like the
chase.
big fish, little fish couple
No.
box?
It's where, like, there's a car that they're chasing and they box them in. So they get them up to the side of, like, the motorway, you know, where the middle railing is. And then there's a car behind, car in front, and car to the open side.
Right,
they
so if
box
he's like,
them in.
You're not allowed to move.
So I have a feel feel that
like a rugby thing, like whoop, whoop, whoop.
what are you doing?
You know, like in basketball when you like tag someone, or like in netball when you're like whoop, 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 you block them. You're blocking.
Yeah, I would assume that they just mean blocking
Then
the
just
aisle.
say blocking, bro.
Yeah,
Let's read on.
boxing out.
OP says, I recently flew on a domestic USA flight on United Airlines. I was seated in economy class, row 31, aisle seat. I love the level of description. Living large. Cool.
Okay.
Does living large just mean like vibe I'm on a plane? Or is this a reference to being a larger bodied person on a plane?
No, I think it's like vibe. I had the
Living
aisle
large.
seat.
Okay. The plane lands on time in Sacramento. That sounds like a spice. We stop taxiing. The light dings. I immediately stand up and get my bulky backpack out of the bin and then remain standing in the aisle, wearing the backpack over one shoulder. Okay. I can understand that this,
Right.
if we're doing boxing, we're thinking about cues. Before we continue, what do you do on a plane in this situation?
Oh God, it's tricky.
I know what our process is, I think. The light dings. Everybody gets up
Everybody
immediately.
gets up. I'll get up because normally I'm in the aisle because I feel claustrophobic otherwise.
So you try and get an answer.
I get our stuff down. I hand bags into you to kind of like hold in the aisle so we're
and then
ready
we
to
sit
go.
there, right? And then you kind of come into your
And
aisle
I
seat.
half come in, unless it's like really packed, and if me going in isn't going to let people behind me go any quicker because there's already people in the aisle in
That's
front
what
of
happens,
me.
right? People go, zoom, they like go to the front. And
Yeah.
then typically you kind of let people go, kind of like in an exam hall, you let the
Yeah,
rows in
yeah.
front of you go and,
And
there's like
then
a system, right?
If the row across the aisle from us got
Yeah.
up and out first and is standing,
then they
I'll
are
just
in the aisle
stay
and you
seated.
wait. Right,
I'm
of
just
course,
always
because it's the person
Yeah.
opposite you. Yeah. Those are the people that take that aisle space.
Yeah, I'm
Sure.
always just desperate to stand up, and then I can't physically stand up in my seat area
So
because
sometimes
it's
you do
too
that
low.
and you put your head
and
out.
so I put my head out.
Yeah, sure.
But
I actually didn't realise just how important. I really do get it. It's not a diva thing for tall people to have issues with planes and cinema seats. I used to think like, oh my god, Jamie's being so high maintenance. Like I don't understand why he's so specific about getting the extra seating
I like
space.
the emergency exit row on planes. Yeah,
Right, but also in cinemas, like you can be really funny about it sometimes. And I used to think like, oh god, I'm marrying a diva. But legit, like when
mean,
you
you
have long
are.
legs, it is a problem. I see it.
I get
really
bruised
see it.
knees.
Yeah,
I think I have like
it's not
longer
bad.
legs than body.
You do. You
Yeah.
do. But yes, solidarity to tall friends in
Thank you.
Peaches who may be listening right now.
That's why so
that is,
far, like plane etiquette wise, this is what I see people do all the time.
Okay, cool.
It
You're standing in the
dings,
aisle, no
you
problem. Mm-hmm.
stand up if you're the first person in that row to start. Yeah, your aisle seat. So why shouldn't you stand up and get your stuff?
All right. To be honest, says OP, I do this deliberately. I stand in the aisle whilst waiting to exit the plane so that people in the rows behind don't rush the aisle and get off the plane before me.
I feel like everyone does that.
Waiting in the
Stands.
aisle to make sure that other people
Yeah.
don't come. Yeah, I would agree for the most part. Like it's always really busy. You know, it's not like there's like a huge gap in front of you. As I'm standing in the aisle, I notice that no one in rows 25 to 30 have gotten up. So you're in row 31,
Okay.
so that's 5 rows are all seated.
Really? What are they doing?
Yeah. The aisle is only blocked by people standing from about row 24 and sporadically further up. Do I shoot the gap and walk past the people patiently sitting in rows 25 to 30 and go stand behind the people in the aisles at row 24? Of course not. I have manners. I wait my turn standing in the aisle by my seat in row 31.
Oh, I see where this is going. Okay.
Wow, this is interesting. I've actually never seen that before where people are still sat. And honestly, I think if people are doing that, no, I have seen it. Not for 5 rows solid, but you know,
Yeah.
if sometimes people need to get off later because they need assistance getting
Yeah.
on and off, they'll wait. Sometimes people with kids will often wait, not like
Yeah.
tiny babies, but like toddlers for everyone else to get off the plane. You fill up that space, babe.
I
think that's a bit weird. Of OP.
I swear people do fill up that. I've never paid this much attention. I just kind of stand up and I think I would automatically fill a gap.
You walk forward until you can't walk
Because
forward
I
anymore
would
because you don't
assume
want
if
to take up.
people haven't stood up, it's because
They're
don't
waiting.
They're waiting because
Yeah.
they know they're either going to be slower or they want to get off last. They want to be leisurely. They don't want to get off in like the whole big pack.
I am with you. Yes.
Okay.
You move forward. That's a bit odd from OP in my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't like this I have manners thing because
it's standalone sentence. I have manners.
at this point, a woman behind me taps me on the shoulder and politely asks me to move, presumably so that she can shoot the gap and try to improve her exiting position by scooting up to row 24, or perhaps further if she could get those folks to step out of her way. Okay, I want to clarify. Is she asking you to move out the way so that she can go in front of you, or is she asking you to move down?
Yeah, that's
'Cause there's
what
a
I'm not
difference.
sure.
I do think it would be rude to ask you to move out the way so she can go ahead, but
If she's asking you
if she's
to
like,
move down,
fill the gap
I'm
in.
just like, do you know what it is? I'm thinking of on a dual carriageway where one lane is about to be blocked and it's going to merge. If the car in front of you suddenly pulls away and nobody's pulling in front, you close that gap.
You have to.
On the merging lane. You don't.
It's the safest thing
If
to
they're
do.
not pulling in, they've got their merge time where you then need to give them priority to pull in.
Yeah. Oh, is that a metaphor moment?
Jamie's metaphor moment.
Love it. Jamie's metaphor moment. My metaphor moment that I was thinking of was when you're on public transport in the UK, TfL.
Yeah.
In London, they're like, move the frick along. You know, you can't just stand on the outside. They're like, go in, go in. You're not supposed to leave gaps because you're then just making it inefficient for everybody.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because we are British. I wonder who OP is. I hear that it's a domestic USA flight, but does that mean that they are American? Because this is striking me as a very British thing to do, to be like, there is a system, there is a process, I have manners, we follow this rule. I remember you got particularly shirty when we were coming back from Sicily because Brits like to queue. It's like, it's a thing, right? Like, we know we need to form queues. It's ingrained in our DNA. And in Sicily, no one was queuing and you were getting really pissed off because everyone else was kind of just going ahead and there was no sense of system.
Right.
And I was like, it's fine, babe. European cultures do often do things very differently. We're still going to get on the plane. Just go with the flow. Be like water. Be one of the fish in the giant crowds.
But I see that as not going with the flow because you have to be really like, oh, I need to get my space. Whereas if it's all like 1-1-1, you can, that is just going with a nice steady flow that is fair to everybody. Whereas if it's like this big scrum of activity of like everybody's trying to beat everybody else because there's no rules and etiquette.
But they're not rushing. No one else apart from the Brits get huffy about it. They're so chill. They're just like, yeah, sure, come in front. Yeah, cool, go. Because no one has the uptightness that the Brits do where they're like, I was standing 0.5 centimetres more forward than you were and therefore I should be here. You have to admit.
Because if there's not a system you still have to push a bit and it's not, they're just very relaxed about pushing.
Yes,
but
exactly.
like,
that's what I'm saying. Brits are the
but
ones
it's
that get
still
uptight.
pushing. If you were totally relaxed you wouldn't care if the people who are in front of you go before you, but there seems to be a caring. Yes, it can be a cultural thing, but I'm more talking on like an individual
I think
level.
mostly it's a cultural
there are
thing. That's what I was talking
individuals
about.
who are like, no, I must go first. I'm just like, why do you think you get to go ahead of me?
And that's, I think, where we differ a little bit because you then do get really huffy about it and I'm like, I'm not gonna let this one person ruin my day. If they need somewhere, they've got somewhere
but
to
then
be,
you
whatever.
think it ruins my day, but I get over it very quickly. I just have a
After
stronger
ranting at
reaction.
me for like
I
30
get to
minutes.
have a little rant.
I hear you. I'm not attacking the Britishness that is within your DNA more so than it is mine. I'm just saying it feels like a very Brit thing to do, to be like, no, they need to go first. Feel like it's a little bit silly because if they're not standing up, you take that space up.
Yeah, but I think that's just weird. I don't think even Brits would stand back as like a cultural collective. I don't think even Brits would stand and leave like a 5-aisle gap.
I'm so sorry. We've been digressing so much. We will finish OP's post here. He continues. I asked why she wanted me to move. She didn't speak much English, but gestured that she wanted to move ahead of me towards the inviting gap. I responded that I can't do that. There are people ahead of us who are entitled to get off first. She gave me a dirty look in Spanish, which I would translate into English as, what do you think you are? The aisle sheriff? Just move, you sad little man. I mean, to be fair, I can see that look. I can see where that's being warranted.
Yeah.
I refused to move. I stood there awkwardly blocking her from the exit for like 10 minutes as I waited for all of the rows ahead of us to deplane. Am I the drama? 10 minutes is a long
That's
time.
weird.
This is odd.
Also, do you know what makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable? The whole like she gave me a dirty look in Spanish, which I would translate into English, and it just feels very like, oh, it's because her her English isn't very good.
I have manners.
Yeah.
Reading between the lines,
Lines.
this does feel a little bit like there's some form of unconscious bias.
Yeah,
I do hear what you're saying.
absolutely. That's like red flag to me. Like I got like a glimpse of the quote later on. I saw you sad little man, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, no, that's too harsh. Like
Someone
to call
calling you a
somebody
sad
that.
little
But
man.
that's like his interpretation of her
it.
giving him a look of like, dude, the queue has moved, and these people are choosing to not take their space in the queue. So why are you not moving up?
That's what I would.
I would probably have given somebody like this like a kind of like a really like really.
Maybe this is not the same for domestic flights, but don't flights typically off-board in both directions, front and back? If there's someone taking a lot of space up at 31 there, I would just go behind. I'm not saying that he was right to do it.
Not always.
I feel like that's really weird behaviour from OP. Just freaking move forward. There's a reason that they
Yeah.
are not standing. They're not showing an urgency to go.
So maybe you would move and close that gap and the person behind you, and then maybe it would that those 5 rows would fill up. But what that gives is everybody who's ready to stand up, which these 5 rows clearly are not ready to do, the chance to stand up, get their belongings and deplane quicker.
And move on.
What you're doing by standing there is like, you'll go, lady behind you will go, there will be plenty of people behind who will then go, row 26. You may go in
A
front
million
of me.
percent. If I'm, yeah, you're so
That's
right.
what
when
I
you
would
move
do.
off a plane, that other people are still getting ready, they're packing their things away, they're finishing their
Yeah.
peanuts, whatever they're doing. You stay back. If they're ready,
Yeah.
you let them move
If
forward.
we're walking down from like row 17, when I get to row 7, if there's somebody who was at the window seat who's now ready to leave, waiting at the aisle, I let them go in front of me.
Absolutely. I do think
That's how you do it.
that this level of trying to stay with the rules actually make things significantly more inefficient for everybody, because you are delaying people that need not be delayed.
Yeah.
Because they are not ready to go forward.
Like, walk past the people patiently sitting in rows 25 to 30. When the thing dings, everybody stands up to get ready.
Quickly
They're
wait
not
to the
patiently sitting there expecting a gap to be left, and if they are, that's silly.
No, or they're patiently sitting waiting for the end. I think you are the drama.
Yeah, I think you're the drama,
Sorry.
but honestly, this is like really like minimal drama.
Do I? It's not the cookie. It's the principle of the cookie. Maybe like my view on this has changed a lot, and maybe this is a wrong view to take. I don't know. I was listening to something yesterday. What has this got to do with Chapel Row and Shaaba? Why are you bringing this up? Follow me here. I was looking at this guy on TikTok who'd come up on my For You page, and he was saying Chapel Rowan has like really shot herself in the foot right now because she's been, she's going viral for saying the thing about women with kids having terrible lives, whatever the quote was. For the record, I have no problem with Chapel Rowan.
I heard her say, like the quote I've seen is, all my friends who are my age, like around my age and have kids, are in hell at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's like, could very well be the case, because isn't she like in her mid-20s or something? And I'm not saying everybody in their mid-20s with kids is going to feel like they're in hell.
So this guy, right,
But it
who's
can
doing
vary.
a reel on it,
Yeah.
he works in PR, and he's like, this is a problem when people like Chapel Rowan don't have training. You can say what you want to say, but the reality is your job, even if you don't want it to be, the reality is your job is to be liked. And my point is, I do think that society has a thing against women. Whenever women raise too high, there is a need to bring them down, even if there's no need to bring them down.
Yeah.
I think Taylor Swift gets way too much shit just because she's a woman. And there is countless others of this.
There are men music artists and like men, but the thing was, we're talking about musicians who've literally like broken the law and been found to have like, you know, assaulted previous partners and still have careers. And it's like, if a woman ever did that.
Absolutely. I do think that women, when they rise too much, are just targets simply because of who they are. And I feel like that's happened to Chapel Rowan. She seems to have had this very meteoric rise in fame. People are not understanding how hard she worked to get there initially, and everyone is trying to tear her down. It must suck. I also understand his point though.
Yeah.
That, you know, like, and what was really interesting about what he was saying and what he was responding to people in the comments, because other people are kind of like me, like, I do think it's a bit shit of you to be like trashing Chapel Rowan on this. He's like, yes, in an ideal world, this would not happen. But because in the realistic world that we need to live in, Chapel needs to be aware that she's selling records. This is just the kind of business. This is showbiz, baby. Like, that was the vibe. And it made me really sad, but I also understood it.
I hear you. I also saw somebody like tearing her a new one because like she was talking about how difficult she's finding things, and they were like, you're in your mid-20s, you've got more money than anybody would ever imagine having in their life, why is it so difficult for you? And I'm like, you don't say that to the men. People are not saying this to men who are saying like they're struggling with being in the limelight. And I just think it's
hate this idea that like problems can't be relative. Like, okay, just because someone's a millionaire means that they can't have problems. Like, what are you on? What planet are you on for thinking that is possibly true? Oh my god, the amount of like advocacy that she does as well will open her up to so much shit. We're digressing again.
I need to read more into it, but like on a surface level, I do just think it's because she's mostly because she's a woman.
I do think she's
probably because she's LGBT plus as well,
and she's, you know, people don't understand how much work has gone into it, and they're just trying to tear down someone that they, for all wants and purposes, probably envy. Right, I think is the biggest thing. They probably envy, and they make so much assumptions. But the most interesting thing I found about that was how unsettling it felt to me. And I know both things can be true. To hear this guy be like, look, it's showbiz, it's how it is. You want to make money, this is how it is. He's talking about, is it Katherine Heigl?
Yeah.
I think she's known, and I don't know the backstory of this,
I've
but
heard she has a
even known
bad
now,
reputation.
Right, because she was really outspoken about things years ago that still follow her around to this day, and that she could be significantly more financially successful had she not have done that. And people are saying that, you know, like certain celebrities, Chapel Rowan being one of them, have a danger of falling into that same sort of realm.
Right.
I hear that. But then does that mean that we just allow it to happen and that celebrities need to be fake, suck it up, just because that's the system in which they can benefit off in the realm of capitalism? No, because we should also be fighting for things to be better, otherwise nothing's going to change. Right? I feel the same with this. I feel like what OP is saying here...
I was waiting for the link.
OP is Chapel Rowan. In an idealistic world, I hear you. They should be able to go first. But if they're not getting up and other people are doing this, you're kind of just being really annoying. And within the realms of reality, what you're doing is causing more of an inconvenience. So just kind of move the fuck on. But then it's sitting funny with me because I also understand what he's saying with, I think if these people had the chance to get up, if they didn't feel so stressed, they would have just done it. I'm reading way too much into this.
I think you're reading way too much into it.
OP.
I'm
not
less
talking about
am
that.
I the drama-ing giving OP the badge because of the actual like, oh, I wanted to give these people an opportunity to go first, and more just like the way this has been written and like
Treating
this
the
like
Spanish
subconscious
lady about
bias
the fact
that
that she's-
feels like it's coming off from like, oh yes, I interpreted this really intricate sentence from a dirty look in Spanish. You cannot give a look in Spanish.
You are so right. I didn't even think of that.
Like, why is
I
it
just
relevant that she is Spanish?
Yeah, you are so correct. You are so correct.
That just feels like a subconscious bias towards somebody
She gave me
who
a
is from a
dirty
different
look in
culture.
Spanish.
Yeah, you cannot
It
do
definitely
that.
is coming from an unconscious bias, yeah. But at the same time, I do think that she would have been the drama, in part, he's still the drama, if what she was trying to do was get in front of him. I'm assuming what she was doing is like, move forward.
yeah.
And he's just misinterpreted
And then
this
when he
and been
refused
like,
to
no,
move,
No.
when he's refused to move, she's been like, okay, let me go in front of you then.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go up in the queue,
Then let
I
me
will go.
You don't know where she needs to go. Maybe she's got a connecting
she's got
flight.
a poop.
Maybe she's going to have a baby. Maybe she's going to see her long lost lover of
Look,
16 years.
If things are that dire, then I think she was going to miss it anyway, whether she could
Yeah,
skip
not the
5
baby
rows or
thing,
not.
but you know, I mean, like, just let people do their thing, babe. Stop being so huffy puffy. Get the stick out your ass.
And like, this is coming from me who is like a bit of a stickler. If somebody tries to like jump the queue on me, if somebody blocks me in from behind, if I'm in row 17 and someone from row 20 barges their way and then stands by my chair and stops me from getting up, even though I was in the process of standing up, yeah, bad. But if I'm just sat there, if
Then
I
move
was in
forward.
one of those rows and I literally chose to just sat there, I would fully expect to be blocked in.
Sure, I'm with you.
That's where I'm coming from on this.
And I think that's what the reason that I brought that Chapel Roan thing is I agree with my badge. I'm not changing it, but I do understand kind of where this person is coming from. And I think like in this idealistic world where there was a system where everyone could go and no one was rushing,
Yeah.
sure you would wait, but that's not the world we live in. The realistic world is you move forward because you're just
Okay,
inconveniencing
I
people.
hear you. I want to see what other people have to say.
Yeah, I'm also interested in your views on the whole Chapel Roan situation. Features, let us know downstairs in the comment section. You are the drama.
You know what I do deliberately? I stay in my seat until the rush is past. That way I don't have to worry about holding up someone who, through no fault of their own, may be on the verge of missing a connecting flight.
Right.
It costs nothing to be polite. You are the drama. Are they basically saying
There's a reason
there
why
might
some
be a
people
reason
sit
why
in
they're all
rows.
sat? Yeah.
Don't be weird. I also think, like, for me, it's actually nothing to do with connecting flights. If I had my way and I didn't have, like, big stresses of getting off, I do wait until the end. If I was alone on a plane, that is what I do. Because I feel so stressed. Because I'm tiny. I really struggle reaching for the stuff and I'm nervous that I'm going to, like, knock someone on the head with my bag. So I'm like, no, you guys go. And it actually stresses me out more when people are like, no, you go forward. I'll do it. But I'm like, oh my God, now I need to do it really quickly. Whereas if I'm last, then I can take my time.
I hear you.
Yeah. Or like I'm gonna leave like my phone or my headphones or something that I need on the chair because I'm gonna stress.
I would also sit because like the concept of standing up in front of people and trying to get these bags down and not hit anyone on the head like really does stress me out. I don't want to be observed, but I hate being on aeroplanes. So as soon as that dings, all I want to do is get up out my seat, and to get up on my seat I have to get my bags ready. And so it's like catch-22, but I'd rather be off the plane than
Well, that's
not
why
be
it's useful to
observed.
be with you because you then pick up the bags and I can deal with them when they're like this level and I
Yeah.
don't need to worry about short people problems. That's really handy. Absolutely, positively, completely, you are the drama.
You are not the deplaning police. You have no idea what situations other passengers may be facing,
Yeah, that's
gate
true.
/ terminal changes, flight changes, reticketing delays, and you are acting as an entitled jerk. P.S. I wonder if your bulky backpack would pass the carry-on tester at the gate. You seem like one of those people who carry oversized things on board to avoid checking your bag in.
No, they wouldn't do that. They have manners. I cannot stand when people pull this. There's another commenter. No one can get off the plane as it is until they allow you off. Sit the frick down until it's your aisle's turn to get off. You have to wait
Oh.
anyway. Oh, no one's going to get off before you, and even if they did, who cares? What's 5 extra minutes of waiting going to do? It is true. It is true. Like, what is unless you need to get off
Yeah.
first. In which case as well, I know they do say connected flights, people with babies, goal.
Yeah.
Goal. And if someone's rushing to get off, who say that they don't have a dying relative they're trying to get to, or the plane was late but the only connecting flight. Okay, yeah, I see it. Stop being the guy on a plane no one likes. Maybe you won't get shamed next time. You are the drama, sure. Interesting, because
They're
you are the drama
dramaing them
badge.
for something different. But
Yeah,
like,
it didn't
the
seem to be the same
people-
as this, what they were saying
But the
before.
people behind OP were doing the same thing as OP.
Yeah, I feel like
and
maybe
then
this
the
person's
people-
gotten the wrong message.
Yeah.
And this is my Chapel Rowan point, right? Like in an ideal world, sure, everyone would sit and wait for and give the time for the people in front to go, but people don't do that.
The thing is as well, if some people didn't stand up as soon as they could and get some of the bags down and get prepped for going, deplaning would take a lot longer. Because you'd have to wait for everybody to do it individually.
Yes, I get it. In an ideal world, people won't do that. But in a world where people do that, just keep it moving.
Keep things moving.
Yeah. Drama. Am I the drama, Jamie,
Yeah.
if I, a 29-year-old woman, tells my husband, a 31-year-old man, that I'm not willing to spend 10k on a down payment for a new truck because driving my car makes him feel, quote, less of a man?
Lol, divorce.
This is a spicy one.
What the actual hell?
That's also a really long title. I've not seen one like that before.
Married to like
A
some
man-child.
fragile twig of a man? And I mean twig in terms of personality, not physique.
Backstory.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Backstory, my husband and I got married last July, but we've been together for a total of 7.5 years.
Cool.
We've always kept our finances separate.
Congratulations
but
on your marriage.
I've been wanting to merge accounts for a while to remove that feeling of his and my money and approach our finances as a team rather than two individuals.
Sounds sensible. If that's how you want to move, sure.
I feel like it's quite common to merge at some point as a couple.
It's a bit of a milestone moment, the
Yeah.
joint bank account.
The joint. If it matters, he makes about 15 to 20,000 more a year than I do, but I have the most money in my savings account.
Okay, fine.
Long story short, his car has a lot of problems and he's been wanting a truck for a while. Logically, we really do need a truck to allow us to do more home renovations and be less reliant on family, but I'm not sure now is the right time.
Okay.
It's a big purchase. That makes sense.
Yeah. Also, like, I'm assuming this is in the States because everything's in dollars. Cars are so bloody big. I'm
Yeah.
like, what are you doing that requires a truck?
Home renovations as well are very temporary.
Carry on.
Like, I'd get a skip.
Or home delivery
Or
for
home
those
delivery,
items. But
or
sure.
like hire a van for a day or something.
Let's see.
I've asked him if we can set a goal to purchase a truck this summer so we can focus on saving up for a good down payment to lower our monthly payments and so we can remain secure with a nest egg in our bank account. That sounds really sensible. I currently have $13,000 in my account. This includes both my savings and my checking account.
What's a checking account?
I think it's we call it a
everyday.
current account.
Okay, cool. Americans.
He has anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 in his account typically.
Sure.
While I've kept my spending more frugal, he has, to be fair, spent more money on our home and daily needs as I work remote, whereas he works in person, so it's easier for him to grab last minute items throughout the week.
That doesn't
I
make
guess
sense
that's
to me.
what
you're saying,
happens when
like,
you
is
haven't
he's already out. It makes sense for him to
for
go
him
out.
to pick stuff up, and I guess that's what happens when you've not merged your finances.
I guess it is separate.
Yeah.
But when we used to do this, it was so funny. We'd like go through with a highlighter. Do you remember in the early stages of our relationship, we'd highlight what was mine and yours?
Yeah.
And then at sometimes we were like, all right, should we just do it jointly? But we'd always keep the Coke Zero separate because Jamie bought so much of that I refused to pay.
We don't keep it separate anymore.
We don't.
I want to make sure I'm not making him look like he's being selfish. That's not the case, but I do think he's being immature. He asked me if we can go look at a $39,000 truck this weekend and is asking me to put $10,000 down.
Right, because you have the savings.
Yeah.
I see.
That's a big chunk of, like, their combined savings is a maximum of
13K
20.
right now.
They're combined.
because
If they
he's
did
got-
combine now, he has up to 7. She is 13.
Typically, though, that's not a savings account.
Oh, yeah, because
So, like,
it's not a
he
savings.
doesn't have savings.
So I don't know how much they earn, but it's possible that that 10k is going to be like, 60 to 75% of their savings, which is a big chunk to put on a vehicle.
I am not very good at the car stuff. Is 39k a lot? How much
I
is a
don't
truck?
know how much a truck would be. I'd assume that's a new truck because that's quite a lot of money for a car.
Well,
That's
right.
about like the high 20s in thousands of pounds. I feel like you can get trucks for less than that.
Interesting.
And to put $10,000 down as a payment is a lot.
39k is a lot.
39k is a lot. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not hoarding my money from him, but I grew up homeless without basic needs, and I do not ever want to put myself into a position where I'm struggling again.
Honestly,
that is very fair.
I so understand this mindset. I have not been homeless, like not from this position, but from growing up with not a lot of money. It is so easy to have this like almost hoarder mentality
Yeah.
of I need to make sure that there is at least this much in there. So many people I know, because we grew up with very different financial family backgrounds. I'm always needing way more in the savings account, and you're always willing to go down more than I am. But that's okay. I think if that's what you need, that's what you need for
what
your
you need.
mental, clarity.
And I do also see, like, you've got the double whammy of, like, having this fear over not having money.
And being South Asian.
And, no, and also
That was a joke.
being not great with numbers.
Yes.
And so, like, you need kind of constant reassurance. Like, every single purchase you want to make, whether that's jointly or personal, you're like, can we afford this? And I'm like, Shaaba, it's okay.
It's a personal choice for me because numbers stress me out so much in terms of like things like finances and stuff, to like think that things could go wrong. I choose not to look at it too much. And I'm doing that not ignorantly. It doesn't mean like I spend and I'm like, oh, look at me not looking.
No, you just don't
therefore just don't spend because I'm like, I just don't want the hassle, right? It's easier. Like, I know if I go and buy 50 toilet rolls, I'm not going to have to worry about buying toilet rolls. So I like hoard toilet rolls and then I don't have to think about it as often. It's a system that works for my neurospicy brain.
It's okay.
Thank you. I feel cool down right now.
We are 100% not poor, but I would feel very insecure dropping my account down by that much when I've been saving this money for years.
Totally
Let
understandable.
me say, real talk. If that's how much you have in savings, it is, in my mind, personally, a silly decision to put that much on a car.
To bring it down to like
Cars-
3k.
Cars are like the worst investments.
They're depreciating assets.
Absolutely. It is like the silliest thing. If you want to keep your monthly payments smaller, go for like basically the worst truck that would fulfill your needs.
That's what we've always
Yeah.
done. You get the best thing that just about ticks the boxes that you need it to
Yeah.
do with the least amount of monthlies out.
Yeah.
Sorted.
Yeah. Cars are just not something that you should be putting that much money into, personally.
Unless they're vintage cars and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, if
when
it's
you
a
collect, that's how it
collectible,
can be like an appreciating
of course.
asset. But if not,
But
yeah, they're
this
just
is
little money pits.
That's not a truck.
I view car payments as like a tax. It's
Yeah.
like if you have a car, this is just money that you need to put out. Yeah, don't consider it an asset in any way.
Yeah,
You're right, it will just always go
or
down.
like buy yourself the cheapest car that will still run and do what you need it to do, and just deal with the fact that it's probably going to break down more than a newer car.
Yeah.
Anyway, to add to the conflict, when I remind him we don't need the truck this minute and that we can use my car until August/September, he says driving my car makes him feel like he's not a man. This was already irritating
Jesus,
me.
I think this is the clincher, right? Up until this point, I can understand if you really need the truck.
I don't understand a $40,000 truck. That
I
does
don't
seem
know enough
excessive.
about the market to know if that's
Okay.
like reasonable or not, especially in the States. Like, I have no idea. But I can see how, like potentially that could be too much.
Yeah.
But this idea of the man, that is what, like,
Yeah,
already
yeah,
you are
yeah,
not the drama.
yeah.
Like, that is it. That is as simple as it is. You are not the drama. That is ridiculous. The fact that someone would say that.
Yeah, and the fact that he wants that $10,000 to
From
come from
you,
your
the
account.
woman, and that doesn't make him feel any less manly.
Oh,
And
yeah.
not that it should, but in the mind of someone
Somebody
who feels
like
like
that.
driving a car. What car do you have? Is it like a big pink bubblegum Beetle?
I don't even know what kind of car. Like, the only car I can think of that is
Canyonero.
it's like a Fiat 500 would be stereotypically seen as a more like feminine car, but like even that's dumb. Like,
I
just
think
drive
the
it.
Fiat 500s are really cute. Like,
Yeah,
I've
they
not
are.
seen them as being particularly gendered
They're
in
just,
any way.
I think they're more likely to be driven by women, but if a guy feels then emasculated because he's driving a Fiat 500,
Then you know what
that-
you do? You build your sense of self before attaching your idea and worth on a hunk of metal.
But
you
it's-
idiot.
It's a very good point from you, though. A guy with such fragile masculinity that he doesn't want to drive a certain type of car, yet he's comfortable taking $10,000 from his wife.
Bizarre.
It doesn't add up. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
saying
bizarre.
OP's lying, it's just the guy is clearly a bit bizarre. I tried to tell him that there's nothing manlier than a man who puts his family's financial interests before his wants, but he just clams up.
See, all of this toxic conversation, though.
Yeah,
You're
that doesn't feel
well,
like
if you're
a-
a real man, you'd look after our family. Now you're attaching this sense of manliness
Really-
to financial worth and ability to protect, which is also a dumb thing to
Yeah, really what it is like there's nothing manlier than a man who
do. Is
is
understanding of his own
secure.
sense of self and doesn't
Yeah.
need to attach it to any of these other things.
Yeah.
You're both being a bit silly.
It's nothing. It's sensible to put your family's financial interest before your own wants, yes, but it's not a manly thing to do. He essentially told me that I obviously don't think of my bank account as ours, and what I say is apparently the final say.
Well, yeah, on your bank account that you are
You've
allowed to
not
do that because
merged
it's
yet.
your bank account.
Like, if he thinks that way, then he should do 5 from his account, and you do 5 from your account. There.
I do understand, though, the added complexities. It's not so black and white as that, right? Because then we've also got the fact that he's paying more out on a monthly basis. She has higher savings. He covers more of the day-to-day costs because he earns more and does
he
more
earns
because
quite
of
a
his
bit more.
structure of going out.
Sure, he does earn quite a bit more though, and this is going to be his truck because she has a car. This is to replace his car. So it's not even like
Yeah.
she would be paying part in for a car that's not hers. She would be paying fully in for a car that's not hers.
I
I'm
see.
sure she'll have access to it, but
Yeah, but this is the problem when those things happen and you haven't merged those bank accounts and you're not seeing it as joint money. The fact is, it is not joint money.
I could not imagine coming to you because like we each keep a little bit for ourselves, just like for like kind of fun and spending on just things for us.
We have individual bank accounts.
But most of our money is joint.
But most of it goes
I couldn't imagine coming to you and saying that, hey, you've got a bit more in your personal account this month and I want this really silly thing that I don't need. Can I have some of your money? And you're like, I would fully expect you to go, no. Like either wait till next month or
I think
like,
that's never happened because you have always
because I
waited if you
wouldn't
want
do
something.
that.
Yeah, it is interesting.
But I just, that's because I couldn't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's finish the story. I've tried to have a mature conversation to weigh the pros and cons, but he's legitimately pouting. I'm talking no eye contact, monosyllable responses, and not engaging in the discussion.
Wow.
I don't want to have him feeling like his wants aren't valid. They're not. But how do I get him to see from my perspective? Or if necessary, how do I see from his when he won't give me anything more than, it's the only truck that meets our requirements within 500 square miles. You have more money than I do and your car is a chick's car.
Jesus.
Divorce.
Jamie, come
I'm
on.
saying that mostly jokingly, but honestly, he sounds like a man-child with toxic views on masculinity, and that's a major red flag to me. And also, majorly weird that he feels like he has some kind of ownership or right to your money when you have not merged your bank accounts yet.
This is the biggest problem to me. The fact that he's like, oh, well, clearly you see it as your money then.
It is her
Apparently
money.
you have the final say. Well, yeah. Like, what? Why would you think differently? That is a big
and
red flag
at
to
the
me.
very least, as a couple, once you're like, you know, our savings are merged, we have joint say. I would feel totally wrong to go out and be like, right, I'm going to take, you know, 90% of our savings and spend it on this thing that's just for me. As I would imagine you'd feel the same way.
No, I'd be totally fine. No, of course.
It would be a joint. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't ever prioritize one of our wants with our savings money.
Or sometimes needs.
But it's a joint conversation.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes it's important to recognise with us as well, we have a business that we run primarily equally.
Yeah.
So we do come at this with a way more 50-50 mindset than a lot of people.
Yeah, everything is just 50-50.
I'm trying to step away from that bias. In most relationships, people will not have the same job. They don't work together and run a business together, in which case there is often going to be inequalities in pay. That's fine. There's also going to be inequalities in what people bring to the table in terms of savings. That is also fine. What you do there is you have these conversations that work for you as a couple on that basis. What you don't do is then assume, okay, if I'm bringing in 10k savings and you'll have none of these savings, that I'm now going to be able to use all of those 10k savings. No. Those conversations account for the fact that one person is bringing in more.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that if you're putting it towards a house deposit, that can't be that you own the house 50-50. But maybe it means that you talk about the potential of if you were to break up, you get some more of that deposit back once the joint contributions in have been dealt with. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you have these nuanced conversations, and it feels so weird to me. I know I keep coming back to this point, but it is absolutely ridiculous that none of those boundaries have been put in place, and yet he already assumes that he has a say on this money and is having an issue with the fact that it's yours.
Honestly, I would not merge money with someone with this attitude.
No, because this is just one truck. Imagine what else
it's a
is
red flag. It makes
be.
me just feel like once your bank accounts are joint and all the money is like just in there, he will not even consider you when spending that money on himself.
Yeah. I do feel like we're also being particularly spicy today. I don't know what has happened to make us this way, but it is just how this podcast
Maybe
episode
I'm
is going.
fed up with people.
Maybe. But, and this isn't me playing devil's advocate, what I am saying though is, and bear with me, we live in a very liberal bubble. That our network are people that are very like clued in and tapped on. I'm sure the peaches that watch this podcast as well. We understand these more nuanced discussions about toxic masculinity and how these traits can be tricky. Most of the world doesn't think this way.
Oh.
And so I think it's also important to acknowledge that that's the case. When you hear people be like, oh, well, it's not manly of you to not put your family's interests above your own, is it? That is a typical thing that's being said in families. And also this idea of like, oh, but that's a woman's car is also a stigma that this man, this husband, will be facing.
Walk then.
Take the goddamn
There's
bus.
nothing manlier than building your quads. Jesus.
That is not the direction I was going down.
I know.
What I was trying to say is what this calls for is greater societal education to not think of certain cars as being freaking manly or womanly. This is not just a husband issue. This is a huge societal issue that needs to be fixed. And honestly, it does frustrate me a lot when I see on Reddit people being like, break up, blah, 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 blah. You know, we shouldn't be jumping to divorce. This is a joke.
Divorce,
but you do definitely need to have this conversation, because whilst I understand that these are societal issues that need to be worked on, the only way that they are worked on is if they are addressed. And even OP here being like, it's not manly of you to not provide for the family is equally. I'm not sure if it's as bad.
No, I don't think it's equally, but it's
also a toxic thing to say.
It's the same type of attitude.
Stop putting these goddamn stereotypes.
But if we're going on stereotypes,
On gender.
do you know what isn't manly? Pouting because your wife won't give you $10,000.
Actually, I think it's a pretty manly thing to be like, no.
It's childish. We're not talking gender here. He's immature.
It is very immature. And this is not what you want to do with family. If things are going wrong, you don't want people who are going to ice you out, not speak to you, act so bloody immaturely.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm really intrigued as to what car she has. I wonder if we can find out.
Yeah,
What is this car that is so womanly? Is it a Canonero? Canonero. Oh, Opie's provided an edit.
Oh my god.
I drive a black 2018 Nissan Sentra.
Hold on. I'm going to Google.
We call her Bernice. I love that. Does everybody name their cars? We name our cars.
Yeah, Nissan Sentra.
Our last car was non-binary.
Oh my freaking god. I was honestly expecting her to say a bubblegum pink Fiat 500.
Maddie, babe.
A Nissan Sentra.
Car here so we can all see.
This is just like the most basic bitch, like saloon car. What the hell is this guy's problem?
Excellent gas mileage, comfortable, spacious enough for a starter family, and still shiny too. No problems in the way he's perceiving driving the car. It's the fact that it has no torque to it. Oh my
So he wants
God.
a truck. For...
What? Maybe divorce should be.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. So what car does he have?
A
2016 Subaru WRX.
She also enjoys the turbo and the handling. But like,
I get
get
it too,
over
but like,
it.
also you're not going to go from like a
Get over
fancy, like a performance car to a truck.
Yeah, and guess which car has crapped out on you?
OP has also clarified, I quote him verbatim on the title, he truly says, driving your car makes me feel less of a man. I think that's so ridiculous. And OP continues to say that maybe it's because she's named the car Bernice that maybe this like gendered argument is happening. I actually think that's such a bullshit excuse, because if we are going down the stereotype of men and manly things, it's quite a man's thing to do.
Aren't all
to name
cars
your
women?
vehicles
Yeah.
women. Like boats are always women's names.
Yeah.
So, you know, bullshit.
If we think
I'm pressing the button.
If we think any deeper about it, it's probably got like subconscious connotations in the ownership of women from these men.
Yeah. Even if that's not where they
Think
have said
it's
it,
coming.
it's where it's derived from.
Yeah.
Not the drama.
Wait, we didn't give a badge.
Oh, I said mine beforehand, not the
Oh,
drama.
yeah,
I was
I-
like, biggest, not the drama.
I'm gonna say like overall.
Moldy husband badge to your brownie.
Not
Whoa.
moldy husband badge to your brownie.
Moldy brownie badge to your husband.
Moldy husband badge to your brownie.
Am I a brownie?
Yeah, that's the best sentence. Wait, you saying that because you're brown?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute. You're definitely not moldy
Does that
though.
make you a blondie?
I would say yeah, OP not the drama, but I still like disagree with this attitude of like the manly thing to do, and she did seem to be defending him a little bit over his use of words, but still overall
Just eye roll.
not the drama.
Not the drama.
Yeah, I am like you. I grew up on the poverty line and you were being incredibly smart about putting money aside for a larger down payment and less monthly payments. Your husband might be kind, but he's financially irresponsible.
Very this.
Yeah.
And also, I really respect, I think it's absolutely fine, because it sounds like you don't need it now. You're saying let's wait until September.
Yeah.
What you're saying is you want to continue developing that nest egg, so when you do drain your savings, it's not so low afterwards.
Yeah.
That's a really sensible thing to do.
It sounds like that OP wants to get to a point where they could put this 10k down
And
and
still
still
feel secure.
have what they've got now in the account.
Or even if it's not that much, something.
But, yeah.
And that is okay. Especially if it's your money. You do have more of a say. They are your savings. You have not joined your money. And if you respond to that actually and said, thanks for reply, we're looking at used trucks, specifically a Toyota Tacoma. We absolutely can't afford anything new. Wow, that's pricey, bro.
I think if there's like we absolutely cannot afford anything new, lol. $40,000.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know the American
Is like
market. Who knows?
spenny, like in the UK.
Maybe they need big trucks. And you have to think the additional cost that comes with, right? The bigger gas tank. I'm assuming bigger wear and tear
Like-
on the car because it's a
And
heavier vehicle.
cars that are like more torquey and like sports cars or like more powerful in any way will come with much higher insurance. Certainly in the UK. I don't know for the US,
Insurance
but the insurance would be high.
it's higher.
Repair costs are typically higher for more expensive vehicles.
And more frequent.
Yeah.
And there's more parts that you need to change because they're like heavier, just like more bulky items require more wear and tear generally.
I'm just like, if OP is so like, we cannot afford anything new, that makes me feel like maybe a $40,000 truck with a $10,000 down payment is really not a sensible option right now.
It just makes me feel like the husband is even more of a moldy husband.
Brownie. If his masculinity is tied up in the big old truck he wants, then he needs to buckle down and save for his big D truck. If he makes more than you yet has not saved hardly anything regardless of what he spends on the household, then something is not adding up.
Very fair point.
Yeah, absolutely do not combine your finances with him ever. He seems the type to ask for forgiveness rather than permission when he does something stupid like buying a $39,000 truck.
I think this is an important point as well, right? It's not about just this truck. It's about the practices that you're putting going forward. I think it's a bit harsh to be like, don't do it ever.
Yeah.
You need to have these communication is key.
Yeah.
Have these conversations, understand where money is, and make sure that it is really a 50-50 decision.
Yeah, definitely.
Not the drama.
Get that man and you into therapy because there's something brewing here and that's going to be an issue down the road, especially if you have children.
I could see that being a case, especially if he's being a child himself.
Money is one of the biggest things that couples argue about. And even if there's no money stresses, different viewpoints on money can cause such a big disparity.
And I've always said, it's not your fault if you're having money issues. The world is so volatile, especially right now, dude.
Yeah.
But it's a real mark of a person as to how you conduct your relationship in those hard moments. That's what truly matters.
I agree. And I do think that it can be sometimes from both ends where like maybe OP's husband feels like she's a little bit too reserved in spending money and like having that little bit of fun or getting things that they need.
You know what you don't do in that situation? Be like, oh, it's your money, and like almost gaslight into feeling like you have ownership when you don't.
Yeah.
And you certainly don't pout about it. And you certainly don't lean on agenda norms and be like, oh, but it's because I'm a man and I need a man's car. Sorry.
I don't know what was better, the voice or the face. I was mesmerized by
That's
both.
really annoyed me.
I can tell. Could you imagine being married to somebody like that?
You are the drama.
For staying with someone like this, so embarrassingly sensitive. This is definitely a bit extreme to be like, break up.
Oh, no drama here.
Oh, it sounds to me like you actually had no idea what you wanted. You say early on in your story that you did not want that feeling of separate money, but the moment he wants to spend some money, you say no because you aren't comfortable letting your account drop that much.
Babe, it's
no.
not his money.
They've not combined yet, and also even if there was a combination, again, it would need to be a 50-50 decision. OP's not comfortable with the decision as well as the money. Like, that is ridiculous.
It's such a stupid thing to say because they're like, you said you want to separate it, but now you're not. Like, that's because it's your money. If he was doing that with his money, I'm sure OP would not have a problem with this.
Yeah, that's so dumb.
Jesus.
One reason why 3 accounts works is that each spouse can have their own account plus both contribute to a joint account. I mean, that is what we do. When someone wants something and his desire for a truck is a want and not a need, it would come from his account. Also, it's psychologically easier for him to drop that money on a truck when it's not his money he's spending. I noticed that although he makes more than you, somehow he does not have enough money to save to pay the down payment himself.
That is.
Yeah. Apart from the first sentence, I am agreeing with this commenter. I think the two of you should have an in-depth discussion of finances and your plans for the future. You are not on the same page.
Agreed,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean there's no drama here. Your husband is still a total
I don't know how they went to no drama here.
drama. All right, this final submission is from a Peach. Remember that if you two would like to submit your own drama, you can do so over at our 1-800-DRAMA. And you can also help this fellow Peach out too. Confused buyer, she, her, has said...
Hello. Hello. And also, are we the drama for buying a house near our quote friends?
Well, does that mean that we're not friends anymore?
Okay.
Oh dear. Let's
Take
see
it
if we
away.
can help a Peach out. Our friends, let's call them Pat and Jess, 28, 27, man, woman, bought a flat at the end of 2023 in a new estate, and we were thrilled for them.
Thrilled.
It was their first home together, and we were super excited to watch their new chapter unfold. This
Cute.
sounds super cute. You sound like cute friends. Congratulations to them. At the time, myself, a 30-year-old woman, and my husband, 31-year-old man,
That's us.
were newly married and in our first home together. Congratulations to you too. Because their flat was a new build, there were a few delays and they didn't end up moving until spring 2024.
Right.
I've already forgotten the timelines, but I hear you.
End of 2023, moved to spring 2024.
That's typical for new builds.
Yeah.
Sure. In that time, we brought home our gorgeous puppy, who rapidly grew to be much bigger than expected, and decided to move to a new home with more outdoor space for him. We looked to a new build on another development, but by the time that we sold our house in the summer of 24, the plot that we wanted had gone, and the sales team told us that they had another plot with a similar style house that had just become available and was ready to move into on another development, which turned out to be the same development that Pat and Jess had moved into. Honestly, this sounds like a dream scenario.
Honestly,
I am trying so hard to
yeah.
get some of our friends to be like, to live in my house.
If
You
our,
know who you want.
if our friends said that they were going to live like, we don't live on like a new build development, but if they said they were going to live on the same one
that
as
would be
us,
so freaking fun.
yeah, be so excited.
I'd be like, yes, we can like get
Yeah.
walkie-talkies. We actually did this with our friend Stefan, where
Yeah.
he did live with us for a bit, and then he lived like within like a really reasonable range, and we had walkie-talkies, and he was like, "Shab, we can just use phones." I'm like, "Yeah, but this is so much cooler."
And then we did just use phones for the most part.
Yeah, I lost a walkie-talkie. But the point is,
This-
it was cool for a second.
Let's read on.
We told Pat and Jess, says Confused Buyer, that we were going to view the property on the same estate as them, and they seemed happy for us. Cute. I'm glad. Where does it go wrong? The house was perfect for us, and we immediately put down the non-refundable reservation fee of £1,000.
You know, I knew this was British, just the way it was written. Like
Confused
about
Buyer.
the plots and stuff. I knew this was a British post.
You know when you get vibes and you're like, I have a feeling we'd be friends.
Okay.
Just like, yeah,
That's
I'm
cute.
just getting that vibe. We then went back to Pat and Jess to update them and said if they wanted, we could say that they'd recommended the estate to us so that we could receive and split the referral reward available, which is £250 per couple.
That's very cute.
That's really cute.
Yeah,
that
and that's really
something that's
generous.
offered.
I love that.
That you could like have a total community of just you and your friends.
Yeah, that's like a new piece of furniture.
They then messaged us back to say that they weren't happy that we were moving into their estate as they didn't want to be so close to someone that they knew.
That's weird. That's weird. That's really read on, but that's weird.
Although it wasn't like we were moving in next door, we'd still be a good 5 minutes walk from them.
Yeah.
And they said that it took the shine off of their move.
But they moved
Because you're the only
in.
people that move house?
They moved in spring 24.
And this one's, you're
This
now in
is
summer
starting
24.
in summer 24.
And
Yeah.
you sold the house. What?
No, do you know what this is? I have a vibe that this is because Pat and Jess are buying a flat and
You want a house?
OP is buying a house, and I feel like it's a jealousy thing.
This felt like an absolute sucker punch as we just expected that they'd be happy for us to, and you've paid the deposit.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how close a friend you are, though. Like, my question is, like, surely you would have told your friend that you were doing that view. If you're friends, you'd be like, hey, guess
They
what we're doing?
did. They did, and they were happy for them. They said, we're going to view a property
right.
on the same estate, and
So
they
why
seemed
are
happy
they
for us.
Okay, you're right. Then that's freaking weird.
That is
This
frickin'
freaking
weird.
weird.
Yeah.
Bad weird. Confused Buyer continues. I grew up in a village where all my friends lived around the corner from me, and we've always valued making friends with our neighbours to provide a sense of community. So maybe I'm biased, but I couldn't understand why they would be so vehemently against us moving there.
I don't understand. My head is instantly going to they don't like you, and I know that sounds really harsh, but it's jealousy or they don't like you.
What's confusing to me is a timeline. They were so happy, like, before the viewing. Now, after you've paid, they're not happy. So I don't think, like, if they didn't like you, surely they'd be trying to, like, dissuade you. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Dissuade you
No, I
beforehand?
hear you. I think it's jealousy.
I could see that.
Let's finish the story.
Despite the confusion, we apologised for having made them feel that way. I mean, all you did was
I don't
was
know
put
what
a
you
reservation
did.
down on a house that you like.
They don't have
Ooh.
like ownership or dibs on the
Right,
entire
of an
estate.
estate. Yeah, like, I don't think you did a bad thing, babe. It's sweet that you apologised, though.
Yeah.
Despite the confusion, we apologised, but did also express our own sadness that they were so blunt in their response and that they couldn't find it in themselves to be happy for us the way that we had been for them, right? They haven't spoken to us since and actively avoid us when they see us walking the dog in the local area. At first, I thought they were being really petty and immature about the whole thing, but now I'm starting to wonder if maybe we're in the wrong for them to be so actively trying to avoid us. Are we the drama?
Not the drama.
Not the drama.
Oh my god.
I really don't think you're the drama. I'm struggling to see how you possibly could be the drama.
The only way you could be in any way the drama is if there had been some kind of falling out that hadn't been resolved, and Pat and Jess were like, why are they wanting to live so close to us? We don't get on. But they didn't explain that to you, and they seemed happy for you in the first instance. And I'm sure if you had some kind of falling out with Pet and
Jazz.
that was unresolved, that would have been mentioned in the post. To me, this just screams, we bought a flat on an estate and now our friends bought a house and we're jealous of them, and so we don't like them anymore.
Do you know, I don't normally like these stereotypes, which you've been leaning to a lot on this podcast, but
Sorry.
like, on this specific episode, I totally agree with you. I'm really struggling to see it any other way.
If stuff doesn't make sense,
There is a reason for that.
you got to dig down into that. And
I'm annoyed that this is the only part of the post. I wish
Yeah.
that, like, just to see if I could have helped fix this, I wish that you'd had,
Oh, right.
like, been able to have that conversation to be like, hey, babe, can we just, like, have a real chat right now? I thought you were happy for us, and we
Yeah.
wouldn't have done this. We don't want to make
I know
you
you'd have done
uncomfortable.
that.
So, like, what's going on? Like, are we not friends? Do you not want to live close together? I just want to understand those boundaries. I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable in your living area too, right?
Yeah.
And then hearing what they had to say in return would, I think, help answer a lot of the questions I have in my mind.
And it's like, Confused Buyer has said it's not like they're literal neighbours. They're still a 5-minute walk away, which
Yeah.
it's not very far at all. Like, I would love to live a 5-minute walk from many of my friends. I'm trying to think, if I found out that someone we knew. And this is people that they considered friends. So if I think of our friendship circle, there is nobody that I would be angry at moving nearby. The only people I would get annoyed at for moving nearby are people where there is like a active and clear not getting along, we do not talk, obviously I don't want to live near you.
I feel like it would have been an everybody sucks here moment had you not let them know. Like, whilst you are entitled to buy wherever you want to buy, including if you were like neighbours with people that you knew, I do think it's just a courteous thing, right, to let them know. But you did that.
And they were initially seeming
seemed
happy.
happy for you.
That was their time to share their reasoning, to be like, hey, for X, Y, or Z reason, don't know why I said Z reason, we're not comfortable with living that close to you.
Yeah.
But still weird.
I think what's odd to me is this whole like taking the shine off of their move. At this time of age as well, everybody's going through a lot of these firsts. You know, the ages of mid-20s to 40s makes sense that you're going to be moving, potentially buying for the first time, getting married, having kids. And I don't think it's very nice of your friends to be like, I'm not celebrating you when this reasonable time has passed where we feel like we should still have the thunder. I think this is a little sign, babe, that you deserve better friends than this. And I hope you take some solace from the fact that I just did a little exercise in my head, because I was like, oh my gosh, if I was in this position, how would I feel?
Yeah.
It would suck. It would suck thinking that you were going to be so excited at the idea of moving, and now is essentially broken a
and
friendship
now you don't
for
even
you.
talk.
But in my mind, I think, okay, well, how many houses are there within a 5-minute walk from here? We're friends with one house in that vicinity.
Right.
I don't know any of the others, and that's hundreds of houses. So these can just be one of those people that you don't know. And there are so many other people.
Oh, I hear
do you. Know what I'm
you.
saying?
Yeah.
That you can now make friends with and develop in a gorgeous little community. I think that's also the value, right, of having like a community of a new build estate when we've lived in estates now. They do feel very, like, especially when people are moving there for the first time.
You are right.
You build that sense of community.
You do build that sense of community with some people, but there were, like, if you walked 5 minutes through where we used to live, you would get very far and we didn't know anyone. Like, yes, it is close and it's lovely if you're friends and you get along, but you could literally not know who was living there.
So I hope this doesn't stress you out and take away from your shine, which you deserve to be having.
Exactly. This is why I was mentioning the jealousy thing, and the shine thing makes me feel like that's even more the case, because I could move on June 17th, move on your birthday, and then a friend could move nearby on June 18th. I'm happy for them. For me, I don't care. How does that take away from the happiness I'm feeling for myself in my new home?
We literally moved house on the same day as my mum.
Yes, we did. No,
Was anyone talking
was
about
anybody
shine?
upset? No.
It's so bizarre to think that you're going through something like this and there'll be any negative feeling for that very selfish, and that's a bad selfish move.
Yeah.
Everyone is winning. That's a time for you all to celebrate twice as hard.
Speaking that through as well has made me more convinced this just feels like a jealousy thing.
I think something else is going on that you don't know about. For sure.
Yeah, feels like this couple, Pat and Jess, clearly needed validation from other people that they don't feel like they're getting.
I definitely feel, whilst that is an assumption.
Thank you for letting me go off on my tangent.
No, I hear you. I do think that something is clearly going on.
Yeah.
It could be that there's something that you don't know between, I don't know, maybe Pat has an issue with one of you or Jess has an issue with one of you that the four of you aren't talking about. For whatever reason, something extra needs to be said. You're so right. When it doesn't make sense, there is a reason it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it's in your best interest to figure that shit out.
On paper, this is not a logical order of events.
No.
This is just nonsensical.
Not to say that confused buyers writing this post wrong, but just like their behaviour is nonsensical.
Yeah.
So like, don't beat yourself up about it. And in the grand scheme of things, I hope you're still able to stew in that real happiness and congratulations for yourself and not let this put a downer on it, because honestly, small cheese, babe. Good riddance.
And I hope that Pat and Jess get to a place where they can just be happy for themselves.
Yeah, and you can find some better friends.
Yes.
Sadly, there are no other updates on this post, and there's also no comments from other peaches. So if you, gorgeous peach, listening or watching this podcast episode would like to help out Confused Buyer, feel free to head over to the subreddit 1-800-DRAMA and you can comment yourself or leave a little comment here underneath the YouTube video.
Yes, absolutely.
But best of luck, Confused Buyer. You don't deserve to have your moments overshadowed, and a new build community like this is a wonderful place to make some new friends.
Some people could be really strange.
Like Pat and Jess.
Yeah, I'm just very
strange.
confused by the behaviour.
Neighbours are such a funny one, right? Because I feel like there's a lot of weird behaviours. Like, it's so weird to be so, like, geographically close, which almost forces you to be close in other ways.
Yep.
With people you literally have no control.
Well, I feel like
Over,
that
like,
was a really
how
big
they say
thing years ago, before like the internet and social media and smartphones and stuff, where we can now communicate and maintain close friendships with people further away.
Yeah.
Whereas
But
like
it still
I
doesn't
think
stop
you
your neighbours
used
from
to
being your
be-
neighbours.
No, it still doesn't stop your neighbours from being your neighbours, but it stops you feeling stuck in having to be friends with the people who live closest to you.
You're only friends with.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had some kooky neighbours though. I feel you.
Yeah.
Oof.
This was a very interesting episode.
good.
From aeroplanes to houses. Fascinating. Thank
Very
you so
Alanis Morissette of you.
Thank you so much for listening. Hope you liked the episode. If you are listening to this on a podcast platform, think about giving the podcast a little rating because it really does help us out.
You can also rate each individual episode as
can.
well. If you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to give us a little thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and if you're into listening to some kooky music, please go and stream Weird and Ouija out now
Yeah.
for you to enjoy. Be kind
Much love.
and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.